Welcome back to the Transaction Care Podcast. I'm your host, Lillian Hernandez, and this is episode 61. We will be discussing business failures, lessons, and recovery. So I could easily talk about how some of the most popular, famous people in the world have made mistakes and recovered, or they've failed businesses later in life only to find success at an older age, but I'm not going to do that. I will spare you the fillers and the details about people I don't even know, because that's what Google's for. So I'm going to touch on a few mistakes that I've made, a few failures that I've made in my own personal business over the years, and pretty much why I think they failed, what actually happened, what I learned, and how I'm recovering from said failures, so you can either learn from me, relate to me, or do your best to avoid the same mistakes that I've made. And I encourage each and every one of you to uplift yourself at this time. If you're thinking about your business failures, or maybe you're in the middle of one that you don't know how to get out of, also feel free to reach out to me directly to talk about these things, to vent, or simply just bring some clarity to some of the chaos occurring. It's okay. This is normal. This is a part of the business, but feel free again throughout this episode to answer some of these questions and ways that you can bounce back, recover, or let me know how you have bounced back or recovered in said mistakes or failures in your business and what you've learned from them. I'd love to hear from you. And you also might realize that there are some common themes and patterns throughout this episode that I've gone through. And this exercise with talking about this for this episode and writing my notes has really opened up my mind to realize a lot of things about myself, which you will hear in this episode. So without further ado, let's just jump straight into today's episode. So when I think of failures, the first one that comes to mind was when I decided I was going to sell merch. And in that process, I remember, start the brand, sell it, make some money, rinse and repeat. Easy, right? Well, I found out the hard way that that was not the case. So again, like I said, I was brand new to even creating content for my business. I had done it on a personal level, but I never really took it serious. So I didn't fully understand the necessities and the requirements and the time and effort it would take to build out a brand well known enough in order for people to support and want to buy from you. So thinking back on that, I realized I may have jumped the gun a little too prematurely. And what I've learned through that mistake was ultimately you have to take your time with these things, especially when it comes to asking people to support you financially, whether it's buying a t-shirt, buying a program, buying a course, whatever the case may be. So at the time, I was building out my merch and I was thinking, just throw the logo on the shirt, sell it, bam, make some money. But how am I going to pay for this? And at the time, I remember I was kind of desperate to just make things work. And I saw a lot of people online doing this with their social media and their following and their communities. And I said, this is my ego talking. If they can do it, I can do it. Which to a certain extent, you have to have that confidence and belief in yourself. But what I was going through and what I was doing, I definitely skipped some steps. So you definitely want to build a community before you do any of this. So at the time, I had taken just whatever logos I had at the time. Again, it was rushed. It was sloppy. I didn't even like the design. But I realized, hey, let's just give it a try and see what happens. So I built the store on Shopify. And just FYI, it's probably more now because this was a couple years ago. It was about $35 a month. I think that was like the smallest package at the time to keep your storefront open. So I spent about, I think, $700 on 50 shirts. That's to press front and back, and to have, I think, 10 in sizes small to extra large. So I'm thinking, okay, well, the storefront cost $35. I paid this much for however many shirts. I'll just charge this much so I can break even or make a little bit of a profit. And little did I know was not a lot of people knew about who I was or what I was doing. I just figured, I have 100 followers on social media. People have watched my YouTube channel, then it's time for a merch line. But no, I think the misconception, and I'll bring this up in another failure I've had in my business, but I think a big misconception is it's easy to make money online, but people forget that you need to have a brand. You need to have brand awareness. People need to know who you are, and you have to establish trust with them before you can absolutely ask them just for money, even if it's $5 or $500. I need to trust you. So, to summarize my whole merch experience, it didn't go as planned. I ended up kind of biting the bullet and saying, you know what? I'm going to chalk this up as a loss. This is a wash. And this was after about 6 months of just trying to push my merch line and no one buying anything. After a while, I was like, you know what? I'm done, because $35 times $6. $35 times 6 is more money lost than I had intended on, right? So let me do the math. Yeah, $210 lost because of my ego. So after a while, I said, you know what? I'm going to use these shirts as promo, because I didn't even like the design anyway. I love the one I did on the back, but the one on the front, it's actually, if you're, you guys aren't watching. I'm live on TikTok right now. It's the logo that's on the front of the shirt I'm wearing right now. And someone else designed it. And I figured, just throw it on the shirt. I didn't even think about sizing. I didn't even think about placement. And mind you, I have a certification from the Parsons School of Design in streetwear. So I knew better. So this was my fault for being impatient, for rushing, for just thinking it's go time. I have to do this right now. And it comes down to God's plan, not mine. So I turned the shirts that I did make into promo shirts. I would wear them in all my videos, which you'll see. It's the black t-shirt. I wear them when I work out. It's my wardrobe. It's everything. I give them out to people I connect with online, my supporters, my family and friends. Because at this point, again, it was a failure. It was a mistake on my part that didn't work out the way I envisioned. And all I can do is learn and take the lessons from that and do better next time. So the question is, will I ever sell merch again? And the answer is yes. 100%, 110% yes, absolutely. Simply, though, when the time is right and the budget is right. And shout out to anyone that has received a shirt. You know who you are. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for wearing the brand proudly. I appreciate each and every one of you. And if you do want a shirt, DM me. We'll work something out. Okay, so the next business failure that I experienced was launching a private community prematurely. Once again, this is why we do not need to get caught up in the hype of the internet. Let me repeat that. This is why we don't have to get caught up in the hype of the internet. As much as I love a lot of these business influencers and content creators, when they talk about starting a community, they tend to leave out the fact that, once again, you need to build a brand first. Who you are, what you represent, who your target audience is, what value you are providing, and all of that fun, interesting stuff in order to get people to trust you. Because brand awareness is one aspect, but then to have trust with your customers, with your clients, with your audience, with your supporters is so important. And again, if you're going to be asking people for money, They need to really trust you and know who you are in this world, in this industry. Even if you are an expert, it's not going to guarantee customers, profit, anything. So with that said, brand recognition is key. And again, why should people pay you $7 to $35 a month or more if they don't trust you? I know how I am with my money. If I am loyal to you, take my money. It's that simple. But if I don't know you, it may take me a few months before I actually commit. And at the time, I didn't really know what value I was providing. The mistake I made was building out the platform. I used Mighty Networks, which no hate or love lost to them. They're a great platform. I just wasn't ready for that. And having nothing to fill in the spaces with, I bought the domain, I signed up for the platform, made a couple videos, and was expecting, keyword or key mistake, I was expecting people to run and sign up. I had gone through several price changes. I had emailed people directly asking to see what they're looking for, what they want, when in actuality, what I should have done was planned it out a little bit more thoroughly, probably waited a few months or the top of the year to connect with people more, again, build that brand awareness and trust. But instead, I said, no, it's time. And at that point in my life, I was doing a coaching course. I was struggling in my business, so I was stressed out most of the time. I was hosting a podcast, doing YouTube. I just had my personal life. So I had just put too much on my plate to now have to manage a community that only 2 people ended up signing up for, which I'm so grateful for those 2 because they held me down for 3 months. We kept the doors open for 3 months, but although it didn't work out and they were very understanding, I definitely learned a lot from that time in that moment. And I definitely jumped into the deep end with this one. And instead of starting out small, showing up more consistently on social media, again, getting clear about my messaging on what I do. And also probably would have been better if I had used a less comprehensive platform like Patreon instead of Mighty Networks, or even created like a private newsletter for a couple bucks a month. And looking back at it now, I definitely, again, I can be very extreme, 0 or 100. There's no or, it's just, there's no 2, it's just 0 or 100. There's the 2, there's no gray area. And that's something I've been actively working on for the last, I'd say, year and a half. So the question is, regarding having a community, a platform, will I ever launch another private community? And the answer to that question, sorry, I'm stumbling over my words. I'm reading my notes, but I'm also talking from my heart. So bear with me. Thank you for bearing with me. But the question is, will I ever launch another private community platform again? And the answer is, again, yes. 110% yes, absolutely. In fact, my TC community is live again at the top of August 2024. And mind you, I launched my TC community July 2023. So fast forward a whole year, I've been really active and diligent about building community, building brand awareness, building that trust with the people that need it the most. And I decided this year I'm going to launch it again. We're going to try it. We're going to take our time. We're going to listen to the people and approaching this way different. I'm listening to my community, creating exclusive content based on their needs and not mine. It is as affordable as I can make it. And I have a schedule. So it's incorporated into my life. Whereas last year, I'll be honest, I was kind of winging it. I just thought, people will log in and say, talk about this, talk about that. And when they didn't, I was kind of stuck like a deer in the headlights. So fast forward to this year, August 2024, depending on when you're listening to this, I do have a Patreon. So if you go to transactioncare.com/coaching, the link is right there. Or you can go look up on patreon.com/transactioncare. Either way, you get access to my exclusive membership program where I'm providing you guys new content on a weekly basis. And as we grow this community, of course, that will increase. But for now, my goal is 10 members. We have about 4 people signed up right now. So yay, to being almost halfway to the goal. And as a bonus, the first 10 members get access to the platform for $7 a month, compared to everyone after that it will cost them $10. And for those curious or interested in joining, I would say this is definitely for any real estate professionals or those wanting to pivot their careers into learning how to operate a business remotely. And of course, transaction coordinators with 0 to, I would say, 5 years of experience. Right now, the focus is transaction coordination. So on a weekly basis, you are receiving either a video, blog, worksheet, PDF, voice notes with tips, advice, checklists, workflows on how to become a TC, how to build a business, how to work like a TC, and everything else related to and in between, like book recommendations, coaching, discounts, and other beneficial information and resources. So that's what I've learned from starting a community-based private community too soon. And then fast forward a whole year, I've definitely humbled my approach. I've definitely considered the community first before my own personal needs. And that has made a world of a difference. And I'll definitely get into what has impacted the growth and really influenced this decision towards the end of this conversation. So another one of the failures and mistakes that I've realized over the last few years, especially in the last 365 days, is getting new clients is not as easy as it used to be for me. And I will say that is definitely due to the influx of new transaction coordinators in my city, county, and state. And if you really think about it, as someone that's creating content about being a transaction coordinator, I could be my own worst enemy in this situation. What do you guys think? But at the same time, I know deep down at this point in my career, there are more things that I need to accomplish or share or teach and do. So I don't feel as anxious as I once did because my transaction coordinator business wasn't growing at the pace that it used to. And I've learned to be content with the business that I do have and to be grateful for the business that I do have and the clients and the customers that I do have, because they're all amazing. Have I had clients in between that I've worked with and it just didn't work out? Yes. And I have to listen to that, resistance. When there was a lot of resistance, I had to just let it go. And a lot of the newer realtors that I've been working with or that I have worked with expect the TCs to basically be their assistant, their right hand. And that's not how I operate my business. If you know anything about me or what I've talked about in terms of business practices, I liken real estate to the starting 5 of a basketball team, ultimately to a basketball team. So if we're not working in unison or together to get things done and do our parts individually and collectively, then it's just not going to be a fit. But that was something I had to learn and a mindset I had to adopt over the years. It wasn't something that I just woke up and was like, yeah, I'm going to do that now. I had to stumble. I had to fall. I had my time taken advantage of. It was a result of me being shy and embarrassed to ask questions or to say no. And fast forward to now, especially being 40, something just clicked, and although finding new clients and building my TC business is still on the table, it isn't my only option, which I'm grateful for. But looking back, I will say the biggest mistake I made was making TCing and being self-employed, but making TCing my only main source of income. I would say that played into a lot of the mistakes and the failures that occurred in the last year, because when I was trying to pivot out and do something different, I wasn't really able to, because a big chunk of my income relies on me being present for my TC business. I don't work with a team. I don't have assistants. I have had assistants in the past, but it just didn't work out, or I had to make budget cuts or whatnot. And making TCing my only main source of income and what I rely on was probably the biggest cause of the lack or failure of continuously building my business moving forward. But the reality of it all is also I might have had some bad time management. I definitely was a bit arrogant with my decisions and my thinking, thinking things were going to go my way once I made up my mind to pivot my careers. But when you are self-employed, that is not how business works. So again, I had to humble myself a lot, and where I'm at today, I am doing better at getting in people's faces in a positive way, whether it's going live or emailing them more often, more frequently in their DMs or comments, etc. Just being more consistent overall. And of course, I am grateful for referrals, because a lot of my business is from referrals and past clients. So getting new business requires so much more effort, more time invested, and of course, patience, something I definitely lack. So what I've learned is, rather than just assuming I press start or said I was going to do something and assuming it's going to do great right out the gate, I'm applying more pressure, more effort into the specific things that I'm prioritizing, be it my email community, my YouTube channels, my Patreon, my YouTube, my TikTok. One post that goes viral is amazing, but it is not the answer. And I definitely relied heavily on virality and chasing that, when if I had videos that did well, it wasn't the solution. And the solution that I've come to terms with is discipline, commitment to a schedule, incorporating my desired outcomes into my day-to-day lifestyle and decisions, knowing my priorities, getting clear on those, budgeting my money and even my time better, spending, saving, investing with intention, saying no to fun temporarily. Otherwise, if I continue to say yes to all of the fun, I will have no fun forever. So being crystal clear with my goals and each step required to move forward in taking action is where I've landed. And to kind of backtrack into social media and tapping into that conversation, I will say, as the final business failure that I've experienced, and maybe it's not a failure, but let me know what your thoughts are, especially someone that has said, I want to be a full-time content creator multiple times on multiple occasions. To look back at my first TikTok post being 3 years ago, this podcast approaching 2 years, me being on YouTube for 16 years, but my TC channel has been active for about 3 years, IG 5+ years, and to be barely breaking 500 followers or 1,000 followers on certain platforms after all of this time, when I keep saying, yes, I want to be a full-time content creator. Yes, that's the life I want. But I wasn't investing the time. I wasn't embracing the lifestyle of a full-time content creator. And I also wasn't being crystal clear. Because if you really think about it and you take what I said as a literal statement, then yes, I am a full-time content creator. I wake up and a part of my life is posting on social media. And over the years, I was posting on everything. to the point where I was spreading myself too thin. And for those that create content or have the budget to hire someone to create content, then you know how time consuming it is. It is its own job. It is its own department. So don't allow anyone to fool you into thinking content creation is easy. As much time and energy and effort as it takes to be a transaction coordinator is just as much time, effort, and energy it takes to be a content creator. One just sounds more fun than the other. But as someone that wants to be a full-time content creator, desires to be a full-time content creator, what was I missing? Any guesses? Well, I'll tell you. Paid. A full-time paid content creator. I wasn't being specific. Okay? Let's be honest. I want to make money on social media. Have I made money on social media? Yes, I have. I also use social media as a lead generator. So I reach out to realtors. I reach out to people who need coaching. I talk to people as if they're already my customer, my client, who are interested in becoming transaction coordinators. Do I still have work to do in order to make my messaging more clear? Yes, 100%. Do I still feel like I'm spreading myself too thin across all platforms? No, because right now, and a part of the solution is the commitment I've made to myself this year is I've narrowed down my two favorite platforms to YouTube and TikTok. Yes, of course, I still host my podcast. Obviously, we're still here, right? And shout out to everyone still listening up until this point. But I realized that as a one-person team, managing a TC business, managing my social media content, managing myself, being a full-time auntie, amongst all the other things I have going on in life, I don't have time to be posting on every single platform. I really don't. And if someone were to, I know this is kind of dramatic, but if someone were to, threaten me and say, in order to save your life, you can only post on one or two platforms for the rest of your life, what would you do? Or what would you pick? And it came down to YouTube and TikTok. My love for Instagram has changed, but I have found that focusing on 1 to 2 platforms and narrowing it down to those and being present and being intentional has really made a world of a difference. And being present in those platforms for the people in the community and listening to what they're saying, I have seen quicker growth, more engagement and interactions with my community directly in the last 3 months than I have in the last 3 years. So, what else has changed? What other solutions have I implemented in this process so I wouldn't make those same business failures or business mistakes in the next 3 upcoming years? And I realized it came down to going straight to the source, meaning going live and doing live streams. That has been the biggest game changer. I'm actually live on my TikTok right now recording this podcast. And I go live every Tuesday on my YouTube and TikTok. And you if you follow me on TikTok, I'll go live randomly throughout the week just to test the audiences and just to see what times work best. But having a designated scheduled time where I go live and people can come into those live streams and we talk about business. They ask me for tips and advice or guidance on certain topics related to the industry I'm working in. And I get to meet so many different people that I normally would not have done or been able to if I was just posting content and not going directly to the source, which are the people. So I will say being disciplined in that and making going live a part of my lifestyle has increased the growth, the engagement tremendously. So becoming a full-time paid content creator, I am more confident in that being closer and more of a reality than it was a year or even 7 years ago. So I'm grateful to have the time to reflect and realize these things about myself and where I've messed up or where I have lacked or even did well in. Knowing my strengths as well and leveraging my strengths and prioritizing my strengths and even monetizing my strengths, right? So we've gone over my mistakes and my business failures with my merch line, my community, my TC community, my social media, and building my TC business. Overall, the 4 lessons that I've learned is, and if you notice these same patterns as well throughout this episode, let me know. But patience is still a virtue I must continuously learn and master. Discipline is required in order to get things done. Time freedom is the goal, but it also does not mean I do nothing waiting for something to happen. And last, priorities versus sacrifice. If you know your priorities and stick to them as best as possible, then you are hardly sacrificing anything. One of my favorite basketball coaches, Dawn Staley, she is most quoted for saying, "What is delayed is not denied." So I hope you found value in today's episode. This is episode 61, titled Business Failures, Lessons, and Recovery. If you want to reach out to me directly, please email tc@transactioncare.com. Follow me across all social media platforms, specifically YouTube and TikTok, as we discussed in this episode, but everything is under the name Transaction Care. And if you want to join my Patreon, visit transactioncare.com. All of the information is there on the homepage. And I've made it easy and affordable for those interested in joining or who will join. So check that out. And I hope you found some value in this episode. Thank you for sticking around for the last 30 minutes. I truly am grateful for my community. I'm grateful to have this show, and I'm grateful for what is to come. New episodes of the Transaction Care podcast are released on Mondays. Also, please join my newsletter. If you visit my website, transactioncare.com, you'll see a pop-up. Just add your name, email, boom, you're in. It's that simple. And if you can, leave a rating, good or bad. It doesn't really matter. It helps push the show out to more people. But of course, I would like a good rating. I thank you so much. And 5 stars across the board, please. But with all of that said, this has been another episode of the Transaction Care podcast. I'm your host, Lillian, Lilly Hernandez. And until the next episode, I'm giving you the keys. There are no gatekeepers here. Care for yourself. Care for your wealth. Your time is worth it. Let's coordinate. Talk soon.